All right. I think we should start. So today's plenary is just about the final test on Thursday night. Okay. So I hope everyone had tried the CorelDRAW for the Thursday night final test. I think the whole system is quite straightforward, right? Easy to handle and manage. So I think it should be fine for you. So today I want to introduce the more detailed information about the final test for you. Okay. So the agenda of today's plenary is, first of all, I'm going to, introduce you the format of the final test. Later, I'm going to comment on the mock test questions. Okay. Yeah, because I understand that some of you may have some issues about working out the mock test questions. So I want to utilize this opportunity, just go through some questions for you. Okay, so the final test contains two parts. Okay, part A, part B. Part A, there are 4 questions. Part B, there are 4 questions. Okay, so part A, it covers, the descriptive models. So which is about from week 1 to 5. And part A is about, the predictive models. Okay, so mainly is about regressions. And it has like 26 marks, a little bit more than the part A. So I think that there's a good mix of difficulty levels. Okay. In my opinion, there should be like easy questions about 44%. I mean, in terms of marks. Okay. So as you know that in total, 24 plus 26 is about 50, right? So, the this test is only marked out about 50 marks. It's not 100, it's just 50. Okay. So among these 50 marks, 44% are easy questions, intermediate 40%, and the hard question is about 16%. Yes, yes. Someone asked me if this plenary has been recorded and uploaded to Canvas. I said yes, yes, yes. That's right. Yes. Okay. So you know that yeah, no worries. So you know that in this case, there's the reason for me to have a little bit more proportion of the intermediate questions are because you know that this is an online test. So actually, is technically is the open book one. Okay. And that's why in this case I don't want to make the questions too easy, because if someone can mute because it provides some noise. If someone can mute. Okay. All right. I think it should be okay now. So for the so again, I just want to come back to the discussion of these difficulties. So as you know, this is the online test, and technically there's nobody to supervise you. So that's why I think it's quite like running like an open book question. Okay, so I think for running like an open book question, you are still required to not consult with other students or anybody else, and you have to do the questions by yourself. I have posted the academic integrity on Canvas under the section for final test for you. So I need everyone to read it before the final test, so you will know the obligations that you have to follow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this part is not really interesting, but I have to address it. Actually, I'm really hate about dealing with the academic misconduct, which is not really joyful. and I'm not enjoyed to do it. But in case if we found your answer is very highly similar with another student, especially when your mistake is highly similar with another student's mistake, this will come to our attention. Okay, so we will talk to you to make it really clear about what happened. We have handled this last year when the test is online, and there are several students submit the very similar answers. Especially the mistake is a very specific mistake, and they have made the sign mistake, and also the language, the logic, the steps is quite similar. So we have to chat with them and to go through the academic misconduct procedure. Okay, and the meeting is recorded, and the meeting minutes and also the documents is signed, which the department keep it as a record. So I just want to utilize this opportunity to let you know that you have to be really careful to handle this case, because it's not a really good record for you. Okay, so my suggestion is please just do the answers by yourself. If you want to check the book or online resources, I think always give a reference, but not consult with other students. Okay, I don't think the maybe other students know more than you. Okay, so this is something happened here. All right. Um, so for the mock test answers, no, I don't have the answers with me. So, and also at this stage, I think if I publish the answers, it may just attract attention to the test, but not a test book and the tutorials, and all of our teaching materials. So at this stage, I'm going to give a general comment on how to work out these questions in this plenary, but I'm not going to give detailed answer. Okay, yeah. So this is something that I want to let you know. So for the difficulty levels, again, I treat if some questions have been discussed in either plenary TBL or tutorial, I'm going to treat it as an easy question. Okay, so I think that this is give you some hint about how we design the questions. Yes, so there are some questions should be in the sign format of the tutorial questions should be. Okay, so I will treat these questions as the easy questions. Um, yes, so the questions will be mainly drawn from your textbook and all of our teaching materials. Okay, yeah, but there are some questions is quite developed based on your understanding. Okay, so because it's an online test, I can't make lots of definition questions. If that is the closed book, and if that is under supervision, then asking you some definition questions is making sense. But in this case, I don't want to have the test looks like just copy and paste. Okay, so some questions will be based on your understanding, but for the easy questions, I think you should be familiar with this kind of questions, and I think all the easy questions has been discussed at least in our sessions. Okay, yeah, and you have about 150 minutes to do the test. You know that usually we have 2 hours, right? That is about 120 minutes for you to do the test, because it is online test. So that's why we offer you extra 30 minutes. Okay, so there's one thing that I really want to remind you is If you submit like previously, if you submit your group assignment or your individual assignment to Canvas, we allow you to submit after the deadline. Okay, so for example, if the essay is due by 9 a.m. in the morning, you can still submit it by the 12 p.m. around the noon. Okay, you can still do that. But for this test, we are going to close the submission by exactly 8:30 p.m. because the original due time is 8 p.m. Okay, so we have already extended for 30 minutes, and we make it 8:30 as the deadline. So that's why we will need you to submit your answer exactly before 8:30 p.m. And I also would like to let you know that sometimes for some groups, maybe you have experienced that, okay, I submit my answer and it seems like, okay, it's like, for example, 9 a.m. in the morning. But why the system label my submission as late submission? Okay, that is a good question because the system is very precise in terms of the time. I mean, it records the time by every second. Okay, so that means if the clock, if the time turns to 8:30 p.m. exactly, then the submission link will be closed. Okay, so which means actually your last minute technically to submit your answer is 8:29 by 59 seconds. Okay, 8:29 minutes and 59 seconds. Okay, so this is what I really need you to be really careful about it because after the deadline, we cannot accept your answers, which is exactly same with like you sitting in the closed book test on campus. Okay, because when the time is 8 p.m., your test supervisor will say, please put your pen down, right? And you cannot write anything, so you have to hand in your answer. So this is the same procedure. All right. So this is something that I would like to really give you a reminder. Yes, really have to be careful. So one technique that I would like to suggest to you is whenever you complete a question, okay, if you have tried CrowdMark, you can know that on the bottom of the page, there's a there's a like a tab for submit for evaluation. So once you complete a question, you can just click that tab, and your answer will be uploaded to the CrowdMark system. Okay, but don't worry, you can always re-edit and resubmit your answer for unlimited times until the deadline. Okay, so in other words, I mean, it's kind of the way to save your answer, in case if there's a power shortage or disconnection to the network. I mean, just try to save your answer, and it can save your time. Okay, so this is my suggestions. I just want to spend more time to go through this not really interesting stuff, but I think they are quite important. All right, so here, these are the structure of the questions. So as I said, there are 8 questions. So 4 questions about the descriptive models and 4 questions about, predictive models and mainly regression. So the question 1, 8 marks, which I think should be easy. Okay, because it is just about describe the statistics. What kind of the statistics I really need you to understand? Mean, standard deviation, standard error, confidence intervals, minimum, maximum, median. These are all the statistics that you have to be familiar with. I think after this quarter, you should be able to interpret them. Okay? And as you know that it has 8 marks, Actually, why it is about 8 marks? Because I think it's easy. I think it can at least make you pass the test. Okay, so I put more marks. I have put more weights for this question for you. So I think it should be easy, right? How to interpret the mean? The mean, actually, you can say it is a measure of the center of the data, right? By the value. And also, it is a measure of the, the expectation of you, right? Because when you got the mean, it's the point estimator, and it shows your expectation. I think some of you had done really good job when you interpreted the mean and the standard deviation, in your individual essay, right? Individual report. So you have a very good interpretation about it. So I have given quite a good mark. So that's why here I want to just test your understanding about the descriptive statistics again. Okay. So also, what does it mean by standard deviation? What is the difference between the standard deviation and the standard error? You know, the reason that I want to ask you this kind of question is they are very useful and important, right? Because your confidence interval can be derived from either standard deviation or standard error. And you can see that actually the 2019 final test and the midterm test were all designed by me. And in that, 2019 quarter one test, okay, 2019 quarter one, it could be a kind of a good, mock test for you. So that's why my mock tests are selected from 2019 quarter one tests, midterm and final. Uh, the way of me to ask questions are not really follow the routine, as you know. Oh, what do you mean? What is the definition or something? But some questions are based on your understanding. Okay, so that's why the first question is about the descriptive statistics. Okay, I think should be easy. The question two, hypothesis testing. I think in question two, you probably have to do some calculations. Uh, at this stage, I don't want to tell you more because if I tell you more, then it's totally leaking the question, and you probably just know exactly how to do it. But I mean, when I say do some calculations, you know what kind of the calculations we have to do for the hypothesis testing, right? So I think this should be simple. Okay. And this kind of question is happened somewhere. You can find this question in terms of the format or content, at least a very similar content in my teaching materials, including the mock test. So that's why I think I have given you a very strong hint, and I think it should be easy for you now. Okay, so you can handle it. I think. Question three, hypothesis testing again. So for question three and four, these two questions are based on your understanding. Okay. Question four actually should be easy because you have seen question four somewhere. But I still label it as intermediate because it still needs you to, sharpen your answer. I mean, you have to show a better understanding. Okay. If you say, oh, I have seen this question somewhere and I just copy and paste, no, it doesn't work. Okay. Yeah, because you have to link the case to give a deeper understanding. Okay. I mean, the learning designer suggested me to give like a proxy of the words for each question. But I think at this stage, I'm not going to provide that information because I don't want I don't want to make the test like writing essays, writing small proportion of the essays, and also I don't want to give you a wrong information that if you wrote about 200 words, then you should receive an A. No, I think the marking is based on the information you have covered. One, information you have covered. Two, the way of you to interpret it. Okay. Three, the quality of the answer. Okay, so it's not only about the words. If you just write 200 words, I mean, whereas experienced marker, and we know that usually sometimes the previous students, just write a long paragraph and just repeat him or herself again. It doesn't really add value. Okay, so I think at this stage, I think if you can just justify yourself, write just enough words. I mean, you can just explain your idea clearly, okay, and provide a good understanding, because why, how the markers assess your answer, because from the teacher's point of view, we want to see your understanding. You have to really show your good understanding, okay, not only like some words, like 200 words, but understanding is really important. So that's why when I say, hey, tell me your interpret the mean, the figure for mean. So I think you can just talk about the definition of the mean, and the interpretation of the mean, right? And what does it mean? Mean. In this case, you can say, oh, it also shows the expectation, and then you can use the figure. For example, the mean is 8. Then you can say, oh, I think the class average age is 8 on average, and that means when I randomly pick up a guy, I will expect his or her age is 8 years old, something like this. All right, so it can shows your good understanding. Okay, so question 5 is a regression result interpretation. That's an easy question, right? We have done it. We have done the regression result analysis for many times in your TBL, group assignment, and also in your group presentation, and in your tutorials, right? So you have done this many times. So for the regression result, it includes the regression statistics as well as the coefficients. Okay, so I think there are two parts, right? The regression statistics and the coefficients. And because this quarter we have spent time to analyze the residual. Okay, so also you have to check the 4 assumptions of the residual. Okay, so I think in the previous test, we only really to test you just like the hypothesis of the the homoscedasticity, something like this, right? But I mean this quarter, because we have formally discussed the 4 assumptions, so that's why I mean this is a part of the test. Okay, so which is a little bit more than the previous one, because previous one is only test you 1 assumption, but now we test you 4 assumptions. So I have prepared all the residual plots or the histogram for you. Okay, so you can just use this information to um, interpret the result, evaluate the result. Okay, so that should be easy. Question 6 and 7, these are all the regression model evaluations. So which means, is the model good or is the model valid, right? If the model is valid, then we have to see if the model is good enough, right? For example, if the model has like a very high expansionary power, right, or acceptable R square or other just R square. So this is what I mean by evaluation. Okay, so you have to. So these 2 questions are based on your very good understanding. Okay, so that's why question 6 I think should it be okay for you to handle, because we have done the similar sign. Okay, question 7, I make it as a hard. I just label it as a hard question, but maybe it's too easy. I think, yeah, because once you have a very good understanding about the regressions, I think it should be okay for you to handle. Okay, because it's just about how to make the model better. Okay, so this is something like. I think it's a hard question, but I think in general, if you can follow me, if you can follow all the teaching sessions, I think this test should be okay for you. Okay, so the last one is the application of the regression model. It should be easy, but I just label it as an intermediate, because I think this is quite open. When I say open, I mean I have a list of points that you should cover, but you can also write your own points. Okay, if you haven't covered my points, but you covered some other points, I mean, you will be given the partial marks. Okay, but if you covered the points that in my mind, and also you covered something else, perfect, right? So of course you will receive the full mark. But for question 8, I think I suggest you to also give a little bit more examples, to help you to explain it. As I said, at this stage, the calculation questions only for question 2, and there are probably no other calculation questions. Okay, so it's all about interpretation. So which means it doesn't really mean if you just cover everything, you will receive a full mark, but you have to give a good understanding to interpret, to higher the quality of your answer. Okay, yeah, because the marking that is based on the point you covered and also the quality of your answer, and also if your logic is really clear. Okay. So now I'm going to go through the milk test questions for you. Okay, so let me just stop my share and show you others. Okay, so as you can see that, here, again, by Thursday night, you will receive the email from CrowdMark. Okay, so from the CrowdMark, it's going to send you an email which contains the link for the final test. Okay, you will not receive this email before 6 p.m. on Thursday. Okay, so you will only receive this email by exactly 6 p.m. on Thursday night. And if you have received the email, just click this and you can see here is a tab, right, for you to click. So you go to the assessment. By the way, I'm going to sign in with my dummy account as a student, so you can see. So for example, as you can see, if you don't want to go to your, Gmail, the university student email, you also can directly go to CrowdMark. So on the dashboard, you will see the final test. But again, you will not see the final test before 6 p.m. on Thursday night. Okay, so by 6 p.m. Thursday night, you can just directly go to CrowdMark, and it also will be shown on your dashboard. Okay, yeah. So let me just go to the test 1. So for test 1, here, this is the first question. Okay, so the first question, you are an analyst for a bank that wants to understand that what drives the income from customers in your bank. Okay, for this, you have construct the following multiple regression model that is based on a sample of 1,000. Here, this keyword 1,000. 1,000 means what? Can somebody tell me? Can Sam tell me?
Should be the sample size.
Sample size, very good. So in this case, should you use the T or Z?
The Z would be the suitable one because T is useful for the sample size which is less than or equal to 30.
Yes, that's right. Very good. Okay, good. So now it means you have to use the Z value. Okay, good. And that's a large sample actually. Okay, so because here the question one also has some descriptive statistics, right? So and also maybe so that's why it's good for you to understand it. So we have income, surface activity, loans, check, savings, credit. Okay, and we have the mean, median, standard deviation, minimum, and maximum. So actually, I can tell you for the first question, you were given this table. Okay, not for this one exactly. Okay, for other figures. Okay, so for other figures, you were given this one, and you have to interpret every every figure. But don't worry, I want to have this big table, so I make a smaller table. Okay, so I think you should be able to interpret every single figure in the model, in context of the variable and the story. Okay, so for example here, the income. So the mean for income is 14.1, right? So what's your interpretation? Again, you can talk about the mean of the mean. The mean is the center of the data by the value, and also it shows the person's expectation, right? So you will expect, if you randomly select a customer, the customer's income should be 14.1 on average. Okay, that's the mean of income. That's the mean of income, right? And the median shows the 50% case, right? So you can say among these 1,000 customers, you will expect 50% of them, the income is below 11.78, and 50% is more than 11.78. Okay, and the standard deviation. This is always a hard question, right? Standard deviation shows how your how the data is deviated from the average, right? This is the original definition, but also it shows if you randomly pick up two guys, what is the average between their income, right? So this is the standard deviation, and the standard deviation measures how the one individual is different from another individual. This is really important. It's not like a standard error, because standard error shows how one sample is different from another sample. Okay, I really need you to understand this, because in my test, I'm going to test your understanding about the standard deviation and the standard error. By the way, if you forget, I think I have posted a discussion in Canvas about the standard deviation and standard error, and when you should use standard deviation, when you should use standard error, and you can always check it. Okay, yeah. So I think this is important. Okay, when I ask you to do something, it's always good for you to do something. I won't waste your time. I noticed that only about less than 50% of you tried the CrowdMark system, which is a little bit disappointing me, because I think the purpose of asking you to do the CrowdMark test is one, you can familiar with the system, another one, you can try the question under the test condition at least. So which is a very good way for you to reflect your learning achievements. Okay, so anyway, that's your choice. The minimum it shows the most small number, right? And the maximum is the maximum number. Okay, here is a typo. It's not 27.34. It's 7.34. Okay, of course, the minimum will not be more than mean, right? So it doesn't make sense. Anyway, when the mean is higher than the median, okay, and sometimes the mean can be smaller than the median, I think you probably have to check what does it mean. Because once you got this data, you probably can know a kind of idea about the data distribution, right? We have the right skewed, left skewed, and the normal distribution. These distributions are really important to us when you make the analysis. I'm going to talk about it later when we discuss the mock test 2. Okay, so here I just ask you to think about it. So now, because the mock test 1 is mainly about the final test actually, so that's why we just discussed the regression first. Okay, so here you can see the multiple R, and what does it mean? Right, the multiple R shows how all of your independent variables are correlated with your dependent variable on average actually. So it shows, oh, it's more than 0.7. So more than 0.7 means actually your selected independent variables kindly, strongly, positively, not positively because it could be negative. Okay, so it's not positive, just strongly correlated with the dependent variable, right? And here, because we have more than one independent variable, so we check the adjusted R square. So adjusted R square is 0.6, which is kind of the acceptable model, I think. And what does it mean by adjusted R square? Okay, I think you can check your tutorial answer guide. Your tutorial answer guide has a very good interpretation as a template, right? You can use to interpret the adjusted R square. Okay, and the observations is about 1000. So the significance F actually is the p-value of the whole model, but that's for your understanding. Okay, but you can say the significance F test whether or not your model is existing, right? Or whether or not your model will be reduced to the model only with the intercept, because the significance F test how or whether or not your coefficients for the independent variables, for all of the independent variables, are actually equals to each other, equal to zero. When they are all equal to zero, then there's no kind of the model, only one item left is the intercept, right? So this model is totally a rubbish actually. Okay, and then you look at the p-value. The p-value actually shows whether or not the coefficient is statistically significant, right? And again here, I just want to, because the question didn't really specify the confidence level, so you will actually there are three confidence levels: 90, 95, and then 99. Okay, in your group assignment, you have made a 95 as your preferred confidence level, which is okay. But I think when the question didn't really specify the confidence level, I mean, you can just check the p-value with all the three confidence level and make a better answer. Okay, yeah. So for example, as you can see here for longs, the p-value is zero, so it is significant at all the three confidence levels. Okay, so this is something that you have to know, and this is what I said, the residual plot. Previously, we only offered this one residual plot to you, but now I have added more, including the histogram. Okay, so which means you can just check this residual plots to see if the assumptions of the residual can be held. But in this case, the plot looks like the average, right? Looks like zero, because here's a zero, right? Average looks like zero. It's very symmetric. That the upper part is quite even with the under part, so which means it's kind of quite a symmetric. Okay, actually, and also the average is the zero, so which could be implies this model is also valid, is okay, right? Yeah, but this time I provide you more details. So this is a submitted answer. I mean, here you got a box, so you just input lots of numbers there. Doesn't matter, okay? And then this is the answer looks like. But for test 2, I'm going to show you how to enter the answer. So let's have a look. Question 1 is briefly summarize the results of regression analysis. Okay, so you follow the step, right, to summarize all the tables and also the plots. Question 2: what do you learn from this result about what is driving income? Okay, so what is driving income here? You can say, wow, actually the coefficients are actually reflect what happened in the sample, but it doesn't mean for the population case we have the same situation or scenario or conclusion findings. Okay, for the population case, we will also check the p-value. Okay, so your interpretation actually should be. I think the one suggestion for all of you is, when I mark your group assignment 2, I notice that you have separated the discussion, but I think it's better to merge the discussion. What do I mean? For example, when you see the surface, the coefficient is 0.223. Okay, so you can say the surface is positively associated with income, and the coefficient is positive 0.223. And what does it mean? It means when surface increase by 1 unit, income will be also increased by 0.223. That is how we interpret the coefficient, right? But after this, you can immediately say, okay, but when we check the p-value, we find that the p-value is 0.966, which is higher than 0.1. What do we mean by 0.1? 0.1 is the significance level for 90% confidence. Okay, if your confidence is the lowest, is 90%, this coefficient is still not statistically significant. That means this coefficient is not statistically significant at all of the three confidence levels: 90%, 95%, and 99%. Okay, so that means this coefficient is not like the population case. All right, yeah, so you can say that. So I wish you can merge the interpretation of the coefficients with the p-value together. All right, don't separate them. I mean, separate them. There's it's not a big problem, but it's not preferred, because it's going to confuse the reader actually sometimes. By doing so, you can be very clear. Okay, how could the bank use the result of analysis to generate more income for the bank? So this is about the interpretation, a deeper interpretation of the results, right? So here, actually, by the way, you may find that credit has a negative association, right, with the income. By the way, again, I want to claim there's no causal effect, right? You can't say, oh, credit caused the income decrease. Well, if you have this kind of statement, then we will mark it wrong. Okay, I think it's better to say, oh, I observe that when credit increases, the income will be decreased. So probably maybe, according to some financial literature, maybe one is like we can think about to reduce the credits, something like this. Okay, just to make sure, because we will be very careful about argue the causal effects. And the loan has a positive coefficient, right? And also has a very, very low p-value, which is 0. So in this case, you can say, well, according to the accounting or finance literature, maybe loan is definitely influence the income, because when you issue more loans, according to the economic theory, right? According to economic theory, how the bank make money, they make money by issuing loans. So this could be the causal effect, right? Very clear. And you can say, well, we should issue more loans, right? Because when loan increased by 1 unit, the income will be increased by 0.006, and it is statistically significant. So this is the suggestion for the bank. Okay, so this is about mock test 1. Let me just see. There's one question. So, what is the minimum value of the multiple R? And so, somebody asked me, what is the minimum value of multiple R, and adjusted R square can be seen as acceptable? Oh, that's a very good question. So, for the multiple R, I think when we say it's acceptable, I think you can check the table, the definition of correlation. Okay, check the table for correlation. I think at least moderate is good. Okay, at least more than 0.3. I think at least more than 0.3 is acceptable. We can say, oh, you have chosen some very good variables in terms of the correlation with the dependent variable. Okay, so for the adjusted R or R square, I think again more than 0.3 could be acceptable. Okay, or 0.2, 0.3 is fine, but less than 0.2, which means your model is really a rubbish. Okay, so you can make some statement about it. All right, good. So this is the mock test 2. Mock test 1, and let me show you the mock test 2. See, the mock test 2 is not submitted, so I'm also going to show you how to type answers. Okay, so here First of all, on the Thursday night, if you go to the final test, you will see these words. Okay, so you will have 2 hours and 30 minutes to complete the assessment, and the due date is blah 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 blah. Okay, so here I want to again remind you. For example, for this mock test, for example, I set myself, for this one, not for you, for me, the deadline is 12 p.m. So the last second you can submit your final answer is 11:59 minutes, okay, and 59 seconds. So that should be 11:59.59. Okay, that's the last second you can submit your answer. So you may resubmit your work any number of times until the timer run out. Okay, so make sure you leave yourself enough time before the due date, as the timer will not run past the due date, and there will be no resubmission be accepted after the timer run out. As you can see, this is what happened in the CrowdMark. I cannot change the setting. It's not an option for me to still make you to be able to submit your answer. Okay, so I can't do anything. So that's why just be really careful. Okay, so you can start the assessment now. So as you can see, this is the question, and we got a box here. So I mean, you can type. Okay, type any number, anything, something like this. Someone say, hey, if you ask me to write an equation, how I can do it? Okay, so the equation I said you can do MPG, okay, equal to 0.3 plus something, plus 0.2 times VA, plus 0.003 times VA, and if that is squared, you can say squared, something like this, okay? Yeah, just check your spelling. That will be fine. Or you can just write on piece of paper, or insert the formula in the Word file and take a screenshot. And how you can upload it here, see? Attach files. Can you see that? Attach files. You can just attach the screenshot. Also, if you want to check how is your answer looks like, because sometimes when you upload the file, it doesn't really show the picture here. So you can do preview. Preview is here, okay? You just click preview, and this is your answer looks like, okay? Yeah. So once you finish one question, here you got a tab on the bottom, and here you got a timer, right? Here you got a tab for submit for evaluation. So you can actually click this. Doesn't matter. And see, thanks for your submission. And you can edit and resubmit again. See, you just click edit, and then you can go to second question. I mean, this is the most safe way for you to do the online test. Okay, so I think I had really clearly explained the CrowdMark again, and also I have uploaded a video, to your week 10 module. So I think you should be fine. And also I'm going to send out an email announcement about the deadline and the submission for CrowdMark. So, in case if you email me, say, hey, I submitted my answer late, and would you please accept my answer? I will say no. Okay, clearly no. So this is something that I want to make it really clear. So there are two questions I just want to quickly answer, and then I'm going back to these mock test questions. Okay. So for the final question, when we find the variables p-value is more than 0.1, should we also include the discussion about these variables, as the population case there's actually no relation, right? Yes. When you find, so thank you, Megan. When you find the p-values are also bigger than 0, or bigger than 0.1, I wish you still discuss them. So how you discuss them? So for example, you can say, okay, the coefficient of vehicle age is 0.3, which means when the vehicle age increases by 1, the mileage increases by 0.3. But because the p-value is bigger than 0.1, which is 0.2 or 0.3 or 0.5, whatever number, and then you can say this is not statistically significant. Okay, so by doing this, I think we can see you understand it. Okay, because the purpose of answer actually is to let your teacher to see you have a very good understanding. Okay, so this is how you can answer the question. So just suppose you are a marker, right? You are a teacher, and what you want to see from your students' answer, right? So this is what we want to see, your understanding. So good question. Okay. So Juran has a question. So not penalized for specifying y hat symbol for the equation. Yeah, very good question. Technically, we would like you to type a hat, but you can, yeah, in case, because I understand it's not like a paper writing, so I'm not going to penalize you. Okay, at this stage, yeah. Or you can say MPG hat is okay. All right, so good question. Yeah, thank you. So thanks for your remind. I think I forgot to address it in my announcements. Good. Okay. All right. So as you can see, this is a mock test. So actually, this test question is taken from my tests. Okay. The other questions are taken from the other teachers questions, and and probably you can see that my question is a little bit challenging. Yeah, I admit, okay, it's quite a challenging and a test your good understanding actually. So this is a table, right? So how to interpret this table? You got a mean, you got a median, you got a standard deviation. Okay, so here, how to interpret it? As I mentioned before, the mean means your expectation, blah, 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 the center of the data. The median is also showing the center of the data, right? And also the mean and the median, the mean in both cases, November and December, they are all smaller than the median. So what does it mean, right? And also the standard deviation. The standard deviation is 1.2 and 1.5. What does it mean? Okay. So because that means actually in December, people's opinion could be more different. Okay, in this case, if they do a survey, right? But here's about the stress, right? So what does it mean, right? Yeah, I think now you know. By the way, when you check the standard deviation, don't forget the coefficient of variation, right? That is the standardized standard deviation. Okay, you can't just simply compare 1.2 smaller than 1.5. No, you have to think about how what does it mean, the size. You have to measure the size of 1.2, right, and 1.5, and then make a comparison. So that will be done by the coefficient of variation. Okay, because in 2019, students were asked to calculate some confidence intervals. So that's why I have provided, because they are allowed to take some, calculators, but I'm not sure if everyone's calculator got, the functions to take the square root. So here I provided some figures for them. Okay. But by the way, you can feel free to use your own calculator or even use the computer or Excel to calculate it. So that's why I will not provide this table for you. Okay, so you can do it. By the way, here we got 100 workers. 100 again, as Sam said, is more than 30. So what does it mean, right? Yeah, so I'm not going to repeat again. So here, define the standard deviation and the standard error. So again, the standard deviation means how one individual is different from another one on average, okay? Or how one individual is different from the sample average on average, okay? The standard error actually shows how one group is different from another group on average, okay? So this is how we can interpret it. right? So when should you use standard deviation? When should you use the standard error? The reason for me to ask students this question is actually I want to help them to answer question C. Because if I just directly show question C, I was imagine that maybe only 10% of the class can get the result, can answer it. So that's why I have added question B in 2019 to help them to step by step, to guide them step by step. Okay, so here, when should you use standard error? When should you use the standard deviation? I think my answer is quite clear. You can check in the in one of the discussions, right, in Canvas. Again, don't just copy and paste, okay? This is not the purpose of the test. So you have to rewrite it at least, because by rewriting, test is not the only purpose for us, right? We still need you to learn something. So that's why by rewriting, you will still learn something from the answer. Okay, so again, the standard deviation is measured the individual level, right? The standard error is measured, the deviation at the group level, the sample level, or for the population case. So that's why question C, interpret the figure in table 1 which contains the information from the 2 last workers' stress surveys. What do the results tell you about your workers? So here you can say, oh, my worker is something, so it's just like interpret the mean, median, and standard deviation, as I mentioned, okay? According to the information provided, in this case, is it possible that the stress index distribution in November is skewed left? Briefly explain. So here, test your understanding about skewness, as I said, okay? How we can check the skewness? If I show you, of course, the ideal case is mean, mode, and the median, right? But here, I only show you the mean and the median, but you can still guess, right? Here, the mean is always smaller than the median. What does it mean? Okay, I think it's easy for you to check the textbook, right? So I will leave it for you. Okay, so again, I still want you to learn something, so just do some study. Okay. Based on the information provided, one sketch. So by the way, in this test, I'm not going to ask you to draw anything, so don't worry about it, right? I just want to ask you to sketch the distribution, if the mountain is left skewed or right skewed or symmetric, something like this. Question F. This is the quite a difficult question actually, and a question G. Your colleague claimed that if you pick a worker from this sample, pick a worker, what does it mean? It means an individual. It doesn't mean for a sample. Okay, you should expect the worker's stress level in November and December should be the same. Do you agree with this statement? I think somebody had tried, right? So probably I want to ask someone to tell me the answer. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, don't worry. Anyone would be like to be a volunteer to answer me this question, or just tell me your answer, maybe. How about Mike? John, are you here? Mike.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me your answer if you tried?
Yeah, I have tried. Yes. I think my answer to it was I disagree. I don't agree with the statement.
Okay. So why? The reason is why?
I kind of calculated two confidence intervals of one for November, one for December.
Good.
And I found the December's confidence interval was bigger than the November's.
Okay.
So the December's interval contains the November's interval.
Okay.
So some of the data from December will be
It's overlapping.
it's overlapping, but some data they are not really overlapping.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why you think maybe the difference is not statistically significant, right? So, but by the way, if they are overlapping, so should we say should it be the same?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Yeah, actually, when I ask the question, I should say could it be the same? Okay, could it be the same?
Could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Should it be the same? Maybe too strong, but at the last stage, yeah. But I'm fine. So in this case, by the way, I want to ask you a question. I think your logic is good because when the two confidence intervals they are overlapping, then that means there are some possibilities that the difference is zero. Okay, so which means the stress level for them is not statistically significant and it should be okay. Could it be the same? Okay, but the question is, how did you calculate the confidence interval? By using the standard error or standard deviation in this case?
Right. I think I used the standard deviation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Because the question said if you pick a worker, so it's like an individual.
Very good. Very good eyesight.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. So yeah. So now I comfortable. Okay. Good.
Right.
I mean, sorry. I confident about you. Okay. Good.
All right. Thank you.
So in here the case is you pick up a worker. Read the question carefully, everyone. Okay. If you pick up a worker, what does it mean? Oh, actually, I want to know his or her stress level. I don't care about in general, what is the average for everyone. I just want to know his or her situation. Okay. If I want to know a typical individual's situation, should I use standard deviation or standard error? Of course, standard deviation. Okay. Standard deviation measures how one individual is different from others on average, right? So here you should use the standard deviation. So that's why if you use the standard error in this question, well, that's wrong. Okay, so this is what do I mean by test your understanding. I'm not going to ask you anymore this question because this is a closed book question. So that's why I can ask you, when should you use standard deviation? When should you use standard error? But actually, when I design a question, I actually try to hint my students, because when students complete question B, then when they go to answer question F, they may get some idea. Yes, I maybe because the question D asked me when I should use standard deviation, and I answered when we measure the individual case, we should use standard deviation. So here it's about the individual, so we should use standard deviation. Yeah, that's it, right? So I just want to guide you actually, and it's not a purely hard question. Okay. So later, if the data stress index is not normally distributed, actually it's not. Okay, if they are normally distributed, the mean and the standard deviation, the mean and the median should be the same, right? So they are not normally distributed in both cases of the random sample of the population. So some analysts may perceive the test in F to be invalid. Do you agree? This is the most difficult question, actually, in my last midterm test, in the 2019 quarter one midterm test. This is the hardest one. Anybody got the answer?
I say would be it will not be true because we know that the sample size is large enough, which is larger than 30.
Uh-huh.
According to the CLT, it will be normally distributed eventually.
Okay. But which one is normally distributed eventually? What is normally distributed? Can you tell me? The central limit theorem. The central limit theorem is about what? Is about the individual case or the group means?
For the sampling distribution.
Yes, for the sampling. Good. That's for the sampling distribution of the mean. I just write it down here. Sampling distribution of the mean. Okay. Yeah. Everyone have a look at this. Okay. Yeah. Actually, I found it's good because I didn't try this system, formally. When you type something, it also shows saved. So I think should be fine. Okay. And then you just submit, because if it is saved, you still didn't submit it for evaluation. So you still have to click this one. Okay. But at least when the power is out of is a shortage or something, you can still continue and entering answer. By the way, here that is for the central limit theorem. Okay, the CLT. That is what Sam had mentioned, the central limit theorem. The group means are following the normal distribution eventually when the sample size is large. Here, the sample size is 100. Okay, so we will be confident about the group means will be normally distributed. Okay, will be normally distributed. But here in question F, when you calculate the confidence interval, we use which formula? The z value times the standard deviation. As I said, we use the standard deviation, and the standard deviation is about an individual case, right? So, here, actually, by using the central limit theorem is not appropriate, because the central limit theorem is for the group case when we are using the formula mean plus minus z times the standard error. When you use this formula, you got a UCL and LCL. Okay, and this confidence interval is actually for the sampling distribution, which is normal distributed. So which is valid, because for normal distributed, when it is 95, because it's symmetric, 95 is 95, it's really precise. But when you use this formula, actually what you are trying to do is, let me use the whiteboard. Okay, so suppose this is right skewed, okay, but your confidence interval shows the mean. For example, the mean you treat the means here. Okay, actually the mean is here, right? But you think the mean is here, and this is your confidence interval. So does this confidence interval covers, for example, 95%? No, it is wrong. Okay, because this is the data distribution. The data distribution can be found from can be found from this table, right? You can see this table is left skewed or right skewed. Okay, but at least it's skewed. So that's why when you use the SD to create the confidence intervals, and actually this is about the data distribution. So when the data distribution is skewed, then this confidence interval actually is not correct. Okay, it doesn't really show truly 95% or 90% or 99%. So you should say yes, I agree, and why or why not. Why? The reason, the key is the standard deviation. Okay, it is about individual case. All right, so this is about the mock tester 2. So once you complete, you just click the button and then you can see thanks for your submission. So you can be very confident that we have received your answer. Okay, and now we got 15 minutes left, so I'm going to quickly to go through the sample test 3. So for sample test 3, again, this is like a promotion, right? You're probably quite familiar with this data set. You got the cells, the mean, standard error, standard deviation, the median, and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to repeat. Okay, so here, according to table 3, 4, 5, write down the expression of the estimated model. Write down the expression of the estimated model. Okay, so you just write down the model. So the model is actually your cells equals 2.579 plus 17.598 times TV ads, right? Plus blah 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 blah. Just keep going. Okay, yeah, just keep going. I'm not going to waste your time, but also you can write down a piece of paper and then just attach it. Okay, it's okay. So B, interpret all coefficients. When I say all coefficients, then you probably don't need to worry about these tables. Okay, you don't need to worry about the regression statistics. ANOVA, don't worry. Although I show here ANOVA, but you just need to interpret the significance F. Okay, we only talk about the significance F. So all the coefficients, including intercept, so that's why I just interpret this, right? For intercept, it means when all the independent variables are equals to 0, right? The weekly cells is about 2.579 on average, and it is statistically significant, right? At 95%, at 90%, because it's 0.01. Okay, it's not significant at 99%. So the TVS. Okay, so now you go to TVS. So we can say the TVS, has a positive coefficient, which is 17.598, which shows that when the TVS increased by 1 unit, the weekly sales will be increased by $17.598. Okay, while holding all the other independent variables constant. Okay, unchanged, right? And it is statistically significant because the p-value is 0. Okay, at all the confidence levels, because when it is 0, it is significant at 90%, 95%, and 99% confidence levels, right? So this is simple. Comment on the explanatory power of the model and the model validation. So here, because we provide you the adjust R square and also the significance F, so you can use these two to make a comment. Okay, but here I didn't show my previous students the residual plots, so they don't need to interpret the residual plots. But also the residual plots means how valid is your model, right? So you can also check, the residual plots for your case. Okay, and here when I say set your confidence level at 95%, so you can just be sure, the confidence level is 95%. But here, when you interpret all the coefficients, when I didn't say the confidence level is at 95%, then it could be 90%, 95%, 99%. So you just check a 3. Okay, I think it's easy, right? So later, you are a marketing manager who wants to understand how your marketing efforts relate to blah blah blah, and then here, the one is we got the interaction term. Okay, so write down the expression. So the expression here, you just need to add this interaction term. So that is a negative 0.592 times TVS times promotion. Okay, so what does it mean? Right? Should the company do more TV advertisements while there's a promotion? See, promotion times TV ads, the coefficient is negative 0.592. So it means when there is a promotion, when you increase the TV ads, your weekly sales will be decreased. Okay, and Is it significant? Yes, it is significant at 90%, right? So you can see that actually, yes, okay. So, but check your confidence level is 99%, 95 and 99, right? So 0.05. Does it mean it is significant at 95% when the p-value is 0.05? I want to ask maybe someone to tell me the answer. Anybody want to be the volunteer? When the p-value is 0.05, is it significant at 95%?
Yeah, because 95% means the p-value, the critical p will be 0.05, but it will be quite close, but 99%, no, not statistically significant at all.
Okay. It is significant at 90%, but is it significant at 95%?
That would be somewhat close.
Someone close?
No.
No. Who said no?
Yuqing. I think
Oh, okay.
because
Okay.
it is rounded up to the it has some more value in the afterwards, like it could be 0.05.01 or something. It's larger than 0.05.
Okay, yeah, it should be something larger, right? Good. But the answer is no. Good. Yeah, because see here, the null hypothesis is if it is 0 or not, and this is 95%. Okay, so this is a UCL and LCL. All right. So if this is 0, and what do you mean? It means it's a confidence interval for population mean is 0. So we know that for any point within this confidence interval, including UCL and LCL, including exactly the point here and the point here, okay? And we will believe if the figure, let's say, is 10 and here's a negative 10. So if you find the coefficient is 10, that's exactly UCL. But UCL is a point on the 95% of confidence interval for this 0 population mean case, right? So we will say, oh, 10, unfortunately, 10 is not bigger enough. Okay, so I will still think it is 0 because 10 is a point in this interval. But if it is a 10.1, then I will say no. Okay, so that's why when it is exactly 0.05, we will still say, so when that is 0.05, it looks like a figure is actually the UCL. Okay, so which means we will still think it is not statistically significant. All right, so for this case, no, it's not statistically significant at 95%. Okay, because it's not significant, then we will say, oh, actually it doesn't matter because it could be 0. 0 means no change, right? So that means it's okay, doesn't matter. All right, so question 3, last time I have tested students the understanding about the logarithm, natural logarithm. Okay, so if they take the log of on sales and also they take a log on TV ads, but didn't take a log on the online ads and promotion, so what happened, right? Yeah, so the interpretation on the log of TV ads will be log model because why? The weekly sales has been taken log, right? And here the independent variable x is also logged. So that's why the interpretation of 0.424 will be log model. So it is also, you can say, wow, this is about the elasticity, right? What elasticity? The TV ads elasticity of weekly sales, right? So something like this. Okay, but when you interpret the coefficient of 0.594, because online ads is not logged, so that's why it will be log linear model. Okay, yeah. So what does it mean? Check my slides. Right? I think so. Here you see, I have asked you to interpret it. Okay, that's quite simple, right? So outline the advantages and the limitations of Model C. So here you can talk about, what kind of the advantages, right? And also you can talk about the limitations. I think I leave it to you because we have talked about this in our, lecture notes, right? Especially pay attention to why we take log, right? Because for taking log, we can get rid of, the outliers, right? We can keep all the observations, and also we can have a more log normal distribution, right? Something like this. Okay, but the limitations including, if some data has the negative numbers or zero, then it's provide difficulties with taking log because we cannot take a log on zero and the negative numbers, right? And also something else. Okay. Briefly explain why it is sometimes a good idea to take the natural log of variables. I think that this is very straightforward, right? So you can just check my lecture notes. I have listed at least the three or four, motivations for taking log, right? And also you can mention it is about the economic theory, diminishing return, and if you want to measure, the elasticity, in economics, we have mentioned the elasticity, right? For advertising, right? So you can see it's a very clear idea at how you can trade off for the expenditure on advertising and your weekly sales, right? So, yes, so this is a general discussion about all the three mock tests. And I just want to show you the way of how I designed the questions, and the 2019 quarter one, the midterm, the final could be a good sample. Okay, yeah, but because this is an online test, so I'm going to ask for more of your understanding. Okay, so again about the word limitation. So because here you can see, you can write any words any long. So feel free. Just make sure you have enough time. Okay, I think the first step is just like you to tell me all your ideas, and then provide a deeper analysis. I think that should be fine. Okay, I don't need you to write a very long essay because that's why I didn't tell you how many words I need, because I think that's rubbish, right? Because if I ask you to write 200 words, you just complete 200 words, but you try to repeat the same idea again, again. It doesn't really helpful, all right? And also, it's just like to give you a wrong expectation about your marks. Okay, so thank you very much, and wish you a good luck. Tomorrow there will be no tutorials because, as discussed, because of your accounting test, so we will leave the time for you to prepare for your accounting test. But Param and Grace will be holding the office hours as tutorials tomorrow, and all the Zoom meeting link are published in Canvas. Okay, today I have my office hour from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. this afternoon, and also I have published the Canvas link there. Okay, so thank you very much, and all the best to you, and good luck to your test. Bye bye.
去上 accounting。
Thank you.